Commissioner, obviously a lot of our talk today is going to be on probably the most famous piece of desert here in southern Nevada here right now, right across from Mandalay Bay. Now, of course, I know you've either been to every meeting or followed very closely what the Las Vegas Stadium Authority is doing. And of course, they're considering many subjects. Let's talk, I guess, about the first one. There's not enough parking on this location.
There's not enough parking on this location, that's a fact. You know, I've talked with the Raiders weekly, several times a week as it relates to that. I've talked to the contractors, talk to staff and the various people that are involved with the members of the Stadium Authority. Parking is definitely an issue. They're going to have to solve the parking problem. The parking problem is solvable. It's just a question, you've got a couple options. You've got expensive, more expensive, and most expensive. And they're aware of those options, and it's going to be one of those. They're going to have to come up with a solution. They're going to have to find either vacant property that they're going to buy or control and use that as remote parking and shuttle people in here. They're going to have to buy some of these warehouse facilities to the west of where we're located or to the north of where we're located, scrape their property and build a parking garage. They know what the options are and they're aware what they have to do, and I'm confident they'll end up doing one of them.
That's not going to change. This is something that is going to, maybe there's a little bit of flexibility, but certainly not 10,000 deficiency of 10,000.
There's some flexibility. They've got room for 2,500, 3,000 thereabouts on the site here. They've got to come up with, near 10,000 more spaces in order to make this work. Now, it's gone down a little bit than what we would normally give as a waiver and whatnot, or gone up rather, because you've got right behind me so many hotels and casinos, and there'll be pedestrian bridge going over I-15 behind us here that eventually you'll see installed, and that'll give people that are staying on the Strip and are walking to the game access to walk over the bridge on across I-15 and ultimately get to the site. So that'll reduce some parking. This is the first stadium that is going to be built since the advent of TNCs. Before that, they're partly under construction, but now we actually have the Ubers and the lifts, and nobody quite knows how many that's going to be. I've talked to those folks to try to get a breakdown of percentage on that. They've been very helpful to provide us with those numbers. The plan is to extend a monorail behind me here to Mandalay Place, which is right between Mandalay Bay and Luxor, with the help of MGM, who's been incredible to work with, which is going to be able to bring up to 3,000 to 4,000 people an hour over to that area, which those people then would be able to walk in here from where that is. So they've got some potential solutions online for part of the resolution, and then they've got to find parking for the rest of the cars.
The FAA, of course, given preliminary approval already for envisioned 225-foot edifice here, which is smaller than many of the casino hotels around here, but they are also going to have a public comment period here in September, something that needs to be fast-tracked, but everyone has to have a say in this.
Everyone has a say in it, you're right. FAA opened the comment period, and they're going to take the comments and then bring them back to the county and the developer in terms of what was said. If any of those are comments that need to be addressed, that someone's brought up an issue that we weren't aware of or didn't think of, that we have to deal with. But I'm confident the developer is aware of most of those. We're aware of those. Director Vasiliadis at McCarran has been absolutely incredible. She's worked with us this entire process, and I've got nothing but admiration for her and her entire staff that has spent so much time working with us on this project, and somehow all together we'll get it done.
Commissioner, we keep talking about the Silver and Black, that football team. There's another football team and another institution that is greatly going to benefit by this. And of course, that's UNLV and their football program. Basically, at a fraction of the cost or almost no cost, they're going to have a new home.
Oh, you've got the Silver and Black and you've got the Scarlet and Gray. You're absolutely right. You've got an opportunity for UNLV that has struggled for a long time at Sam Boyd, has had more than its share of challenges with folks getting there, egress out of Sam Boyd, and just the facility itself. It's not really up to a level 1 college program when you talk about playing major schools and getting a Power 5 or Power 6 conference, which is ultimately where UNLV wants to be. This facility will put them there. There's no doubt in my mind this facility will give them the option. Talk to Coach Sanchez, and he talks about recruiting, and he says, when you can bring a high school kid out and you're taking him into this stadium, whatever it's going to be called, home of the Raiders, home of the Rebels, and you're going to be able to walk them on the field and look up, and they're going to see 65,000 seats in a dome stadium. It's going to make his job a lot easier. And I think he's going to be able to land recruits that he previously would not have been able to land. I think the program will be much better off as a result of that. So it's an exciting time for UNLV. It's a really exciting time, and folks will be able to go into this stadium and see what it is and see the Rebels in action.
It's an interesting letter that was sent from a couple people in higher education to the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, and that was, of course, from Tom Riley, the Chancellor, and UNLV President Len Jessup, saying this partnership among the Raiders, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority Board, and the Nevada system of higher education is not just about football. It's about building a better community for all Nevadans.
It's absolutely a community. First off, you get not just the community as it relates to UNLV, where otherwise we wouldn't have been able to afford anywhere near a $750 million contribution. This is a $2 billion stadium that's going to be built. There is no way that UNLV could ever have been able to afford a facility of anywhere near that magnitude. And when you look at the benefit that the community is going to get, when you take apart the jobs, inside the jobs, and the revenue that's going to come in as a result of this, which is not to be deminimized, it's significant, the revenue that's going to come from that. There's a pride of knowing that you're one of 32 cities, really one of 30 cities, because 2 cities have 2 teams, that have an NFL franchise in the world. That says an awful lot about our community, how far we've come, and you're going to attract a lot more visitors. You know, what percentage of these folks are going to come from Southern California or the Bay Area? What percentage are going to travel with the visiting teams that are coming here? We're going to bring a lot more people into the community that's just the football side of it. You've got concerts. Now there's discussion about potentially World Cup soccer coming in here. That's an opportunity. The opportunities are endless that this facility can be used for.
Commissioner, I don't know if these two stories are connected, and certainly geographically, the Bali Hai golf course, which is just a catty corner to where we are now. Right. There's some sort of dispute with the BLM and Clark County. They're alleging that we owe them $10-12 million in parking arrears. Bring us up to date on that situation, and gosh, why don't we just take over that piece?
Yeah.
Wouldn't all your problems be solved if we took that golf course and changed it into parking and annex for the stadium?
Our problems would be solved if they could get their golf course. Unfortunately, we don't control that golf course. It predated me back in the late 90s, 2000. That was a piece of the land that was governed under the CMA that, you know, the county managed for the BLM. Went under Department of Aviation, ultimately came to the county in terms of operating that, and it was put out for an RFP, which is one of the few, if not the only one, of all these parcels that were put out. And there's several others along the Beltway area, the shopping center on Rainbow and 215, and where Switch is located, and there's another big shopping center on Blue Diamond, that were also part of this program that was established by the BLM at the time. And what we were required to do is make the best deal possible for the federal government. And how it was divided up is the revenue, 85% went back to the BLM, 10% went to the education fund, and 5% went to the airport, Department of Aviation, for coordinating all this and for doing the work. What we did with Bali Hai, what the commissioners at the time did with Bali Hai, is they didn't charge a flag ground rent. What they said is, okay, you invest your money, Mr. Walters, and after you get a preferred rate of return, it was called, on your money, and you get all your money back, we'll start splitting the money. You put up all the money to make the golf course, we just put up the land. You get a 100-year lease on the property. After you get your money back, then we'll start splitting the money 50-50. Well, other people bid for different things. Andre Agassi was involved. They talked about it for racing. They talked about it for tennis, for various uses. The golf course is one that was chosen by the commissioners at the time, but it has never turned a profit. Golf turned down after that. They never got to where he could get all his money back, much less get a return on that money. So that's the situation that we're in now. And now the BLM is coming and kind of saying, Monday morning quarterbacking, saying, look, we should have taken a flat rent on that property. We shouldn't have got a participation. But they wanted the upside, the potential of the upside, so they took a percentage, and ultimately there hasn't been any money derived. Now what happened is Mr. Walters came to the commission 5 years ago, let's say, and he wanted to change the use on the golf course, put it into a storage facility and some retail, and I said, look, you got to start paying some rent, and we arbitrarily came up with $100,000 as the rent. He's been paying the $100,000 minimum rent, but now we're at the point of the BLM is saying, look, you owe us all this money. And we'll have to see how that plays out ultimately. Hopefully not, but ultimately could end up in court.